So, coming up next weekend at the O2 Arena in London, live on DAZN pay-per-view, we've got a mouth-watering clash in the heavyweight division between two genuine world-class operators. Both can punch, both game as a badger. It's Joseph Parker against Fabio Wardley, and let me tell you, I'm more excited than Gary Neville after taking down a Union Jack. This will be epic. Both interim champions as well. I believe the WBO interim belt is on the line. Not sure about the WBA. At the end of the day, who gives a flying fuck? The winner will either be upgraded to the full champion with the WBO or will face Usyk next. So it really is all or nothing, and you've got to commend both men, especially Joseph Parker. He's waited forever for his shot at the full belt. Obviously, if he fights Usyk, it will be for all of the marbles, you'd think, unless the IBF strip Usyk, as they normally do. But either way, he's got to be one of the most unlucky men in boxing, Joe, because he has fought everybody. He currently has a record of 36-3, with 24 wins coming by knockout. Last time out, he stopped Martin Bakole inside 2 rounds. Normally, that would be a really good win, but Bakole came in looking like my ex-missus' mum. He was fucking massive, but nonetheless, he got the victory, and that was another sign of how unlucky Joseph Parker is, because he was meant to fight Dubois for the IBF title. Daniel pulled out on fight week because he'd been eating too many crayons, so he had to fight Bakole late notice. But I mean, really, on paper, Parker should have had his shot against Usyk. Instead, it was Dubois. Don't push the horses happened. You know the rest. And Dubois got splattered at Wembley. I do understand why it was Usyk against Dubois too, because at the end of the day, Dubois was IBF champion on paper. But you couldn't help but feel for Parker because he'd done everything right, and prior to the Bakole win, he did also beat Zhang. He was a big underdog going into that, Parker, but he outboxed Zhang. He did get dropped twice, but battled back well, winning a majority decision against a bigger bang. And before that, Parker looked as good as he's ever looked, schooling and dominating Beyonce Wilder, ruining the AJ Wilder fight, but Parker didn't care about that. He was a 9-2 underdog, and he looked sensational that night. And nobody knew Wilder was done then either. Wilder was coming off a first-round knockout against Robert Helenia, so that really was a genuine, fantastic win. And now you look back at Wilder and you think, okay, well, maybe he was there for the taking, but nobody really wanted to fight Wilder at that time. But the Kiwi man has had his losses against AJ in 2018. There was such a big build-up for that. It was a massive unification. And I know the ref went old Joe Cortez on us and ruined the fight, but I just don't think Parker let his hands go enough. And for me, he looked happy to say he was the first man to go the distance with AJ, and that was disappointing. But he did bounce back, and he had a decent performance against Dillian Whyte in spurts, but did get dropped twice. One of those knockdowns shouldn't have been a knockdown because he got dropped with a forearm. The second knockdown would have knocked out a horse with that left hook from Dillian. But Parker nearly had Whyte out of there in the 12th round, and you couldn't help but feel, my God, Joe, if you'd done this earlier, you would have beat Dillian Whyte, because I'm not being funny. Joseph Parker is a better fighter than Dillian Whyte, but on the night, Dillian was better, so fair play to him. And then his third loss to Joe Joyce was really bad, because that was a grueling fight. And to be fair, that was prime Juggernaut, back when he had brain cells, and now he's completely washed up. But back then, Joe Joyce was a force, and Parker fought well. Again, he fought valiantly, but got badly knocked out in the 11th round. And really, you were looking at it as well, thinking, well, do you know what? He's been world champion. He beat Andy Ruiz Jr. back in the day. And prior to the Joe Joyce fight, he also had 2 good wins over Del Boy. But you were thinking, what's the point in continuing, Joe? But fair play to him and Andy Lee, because he is such an improved fighter. He lets his hands go more. He's technically better. He can punch harder than what he did back when he was world champion. And everything tells you that Joseph Parker should be Fabio Wardley, because he's technically better. He's arguably got a better chin. I mean, Wardley's never been down, but Parker's been in there with far more killers than Wardley. But there is also that vulnerability with Parker, because he has been stopped before. He has been dropped numerous times. And Fabio can punch like a mule. He currently has a record of 19-0-1 with 18 wins coming by knockout. Last time out, he was getting his head boxed off against Justice Hooney and somehow landed a right hand from the gods and knocked out Justice. You did have to feel sorry for the Aussie man, but at the end of the day, fair play to Fabio, because his balls were on the line. He was at Portman Road. There was 20-odd thousand people there, and he looked done. He looked beat. Everyone was thinking, my God, well, it was always going to happen at some stage, Fabio being found out. But he found that shot, and you can just never write him out of any fight. And when you look at Fabio's resume, it's not as strong as Parker's, but considering he only took up boxing when he was 20, he had no amateur career, he had 4 white collar fights and then turned pro in 2017, I think he's got a pretty good record, really. I mean, he beat Nathan Gorman for the British title. He's beat David Adley, knocked him out. That was on the undercard of Fury and Ngannou. And that first fight with Fraser Clarke is one of the best fights I've ever seen. For me, it was fight of the year for last year. I actually had Fabio winning that by 2 points, 114, 112. But Fraser did box out of his skin that night. And I think that took a lot out of Fabio and Fraser. Obviously, in the rematch, that was just next level. I've never seen such a scary picture in all my life. When he literally punched a hole in Fraser Clarke's head, it was horrible to watch. And especially after such a close fight in the first fight, that was a draw. I mean, you just thought that that second fight was going to be more of the same and back and forth. And Fabio closed the show in the first round. So let's be honest. I mean, Fabio's not going to outbox Joseph Parker in a million years. He will lose rounds in this. He'll probably get cut. He'll probably get hurt. But I can see him pulling it off because that right hand is dynamite. And I think everyone's forgot how vulnerable Parker is as well. And I think this is going to be a case of Parker is going to win the early rounds. He's going to be outboxing Wardley with that beautiful jab, and he'll just be too smart. His ring IQ will be too high for him. And I think Wardley is going to catch Parker in the mid to late rounds, and I think he's going to stop him. But Parker is a lot faster than Wardley. I love the link up with Andy Lee, but I also really like the link up with Ben Davison and Fabio Wardley. And I think it's going to be a battle of the minds between the two trainers, but in the ring, I can just see Wardley pulling off a massive upset. I mean, he's 7-1 to win by a knockout with Bet Victor. I mean, who's got a Bet Victor account? But still, crazy odds. But good luck to both, man. I love them both. I both think they're a credit to the sport, and fair play to them for getting in there. I mean, what's going on with the heavyweight division? We've got Moses Atauma fannying around. Is he fighting Pulev, or is Pulev now fighting Gassiev? Fury and AJ still not doing anything. It's just infuriating. So this will be an unbelievable night. The undercard is a pile of shit, but who cares? We're all there for the main event, and it's going to go off. So let me know your thoughts in the comment section below, guys. I hope you've all enjoyed this video. Enjoy your weekend, and I will see you all on the next one.